Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, I would very much like to share with you some thoughts that I have with regard to this set from the Criterion Collection, which is called The Complete Films of Agnes Varda. And it is a spectacular set for many reasons, and one of those reasons is the lineup of films. So if you don't mind, let us begin with the first disc, which is presented in this first page of this housing unit, which includes the discs themselves. This is the housing part of the first disc, which is referred to as Agnes Forever. First disc is referred to as Program 1, and Program 1 is given the title of Agnes Forever. This program includes 2 films plus supplements, the first being VARDA by AGNES from 2019, and the second being a shorter film called Les Trois Boutons from 2015. VARDA by AGNES is about 2 hours. And so it is you have a long film or a feature-length film, and then you have a shorter work plus some supplements, which I'll get to in a moment. This is an interesting, very intriguing place to start when it comes to the presentation of the works by Agnes Varda, because we have, of course, a film or a work that is very late, and in fact, according to the Criterion booklet filmography, the work VARDA by Agnes comes at the very end of the listed filmography. And Les Trois Boutons is also at the tail end of such very long and robust filmography by the filmmaker Agnes Varda. And so on the one hand, it might seem to be somewhat of an interesting choice to start with a couple of films that fall at the tail end of this very long and illustrious body of work from this great cinematic master. And so for those of you who are interested more in, say, a chronological exploration of the works of Varda, using the set, of course, you're going to have to go out of order, out of sequence from the discs themselves. But that is certainly possible, and indeed the Criterion book that's included does have, starting on page 164, it has a chronological guide to the films, and so if you are interested, you can follow along the works chronologically, which I think is one approach to the films of Varda, as to any other filmmaker, of course. However, if we're thinking about this, which is a kind of curated order of the Criterion Collection with regard to the works of Varda, and that such Criterion curated order begins with VARDA by Agnes, followed by Les Trois Boutons, I think we can see a number of things. First of all, VARDA by Agnes is a work that I think provides a great sense of introduction to the long-spanning career and multifaceted career of Agnes Varda, because we get, in essence, her take on the works that she made, and from her own perspective and through her own comments, because we see her talking sometimes to audiences, sometimes to us, and she is commenting on certain films. Sometimes she's speaking to other people, and sometimes she is trying to get a sense of what it was she was trying to achieve with a particular work here and there. And so this serves almost like as a comprehensive overview of the career of Agnes Varda. So if you are looking for a place to learn about the whole filmography of this great artist, I think this is one place to start. Also, it illustrates the truly brilliant way that Agnes Varda was herself a kind of integral part of her films. The idea or notion that her filmmaking style or craft, I think, involves in large part her own personality infused into the works, I think is made so clear when watching Varda by Agnes, not just in terms of how she and others might be speaking about the works that are being cataloged in this film, but also in the way that she is engaging with the audiences and with you and me in the film itself, in the work itself, and in the explanations and in the playfulness that we see, and in the witty banter and the visual flair and the cute manner, and also the inventive, quite creative ways that the images are composed, that things are constructed, things are staged, and the like. And this staging, and this framing, as captured in Varda by Agnes, is, I think, such a great window into the world of Varda and her works, and to see how creative and how light on their feet they are, and how bubbly and bright and full of energy they are. I mean, her filmography is energetic, and the film Varda by Agnes, I think, reflects this energy quite beautifully and quite aptly. So that's another thing that you can get if you're approaching Varda's works for the first time. Also, we really get a sense of Varda and her technical sensibilities vis-a-vis the art form of cinema and film and the medium, because she's not just dealing with one particular medium of film itself, which she does, of course, in her career, but she's also pushing the boundaries in terms of employing certain types of technology. Digital technology, of course, is employed in the later parts of her career, and we see this reflected in the film Varda by Agnes. And so we see a lot of things so far. We see her approach to technology in cinema when trying to tell her stories. We see the inventiveness of her craft and her wit and her cinematic persona. And also we see the overview of the works as discussed in the film. And also I should add that this film, Varda by Agnes, also helps to shed more light into the philosophy of Varda vis-a-vis film. And if I could explain in maybe two basic components, it seems to me that among the many important aspects of Varda, the cineast, two very basic components come to mind. First of all is the idea of empathy in cinema. And empathy in cinema is depiction of characters and people through the cinematic lens in a way that embodies the eye of empathy. And this can lead into many directions, of course, how one gives room to the characters in a narrative cinematic space in order to let them do what it is they are naturally inclined to do organically. And or this could also be something very significant in the realm of documentary or capturing the real. And as we know with Varda, she is a filmmaker that has, of course, approached the medium of cinema through the documentary lens, also through the narrative lens. And also we understand, therefore, that it is one of her prime goals, if you will, to try to capture something of a moment in time or people in time that is of a caring, empathetic empathy in terms of her camera eye, which I think is a very important aspect of Varda's filmography throughout the entirety of her body of work. The other thing too, which is I think so fundamental, is that this film I think is very illustrative of the fact that Varda seems to be so much one with her cinema. You know, I often thought that it was enough to describe Varda and the relationship between her and her works being such that her works are a reflection of her. That's what I always believed. But in going through the set, and in particular going through this particular first program disc, I have come to realize that it's not enough to say that Varda's films are a reflection of her. In fact, I would say that I should amend this approach and instead say that Varda's films are not only a reflection of Varda herself, but in fact, Varda's films are Varda herself. You get such a great insight into the fact that Varda and cinema are one and the same. It's like she is living and breathing cinema. And another way to say that is that she is living in the moment. Every time she is living in the moment, and she seems to believe, I think quite rightly so, that living in the moment and expressing oneself in cinema, they seem to be so interconnected for her, such that the moment and cinema become one and the same, and they are unified by Agnes Varda herself. And so we see this, of course, in how her family is reflected in her work. We see this, of course, in how she is, in essence, embodied in her work itself, both her voice and her face and herself. And we see also how the world that she lives in, and the sensibilities that she possesses, and the philosophies and viewpoints that she also embraces, how all of these are too captured in time within the very essence and soul of her body of work. And I think Varda by Agnes, this work, this film, which starts off Program 1 of the Criterion curated order, I think shows this quite vividly and starkly and very effectively. And so in those ways, I think Varda by Agnes is an interesting and quite bold choice by the Criterion Collection in terms of its order of this set. So it's a very good place to start if you are interested in going in and out of chronological order. So that's the first film, Varda by Agnes from 2019. But then we go to the shorter film, which is from a few years prior, 2015. This is Les Trois Boutons. Les Trois Boutons. And this is a very lyrical and charming and down-to-earth, yet quite almost ethereal type of cinematic poem that is so much more. It shows once again the playfulness of Varda. It shows her camera eye and how it is really trying to respect and give love and such a devotion and empathy to the people that are being portrayed in this film, Les Trois Boutons, the young girl in particular, that is at the heart of this work. And we also see dialogue that is very creatively expressed. The camera is not just an observer, but also a participant. And so we see, therefore, that the inventive mind of Varda is still highly charged and at work here in a creative and quite impressive way. And we also see Varda and her approach to developing technologies, and we also see her approach to effects and also application, post-shoot applications, and seeing how they are, again, a reflection of a poetic playfulness that is also down to earth in its trying to pay respect to the people, places, and things, and animals, and little moments that are so lovingly populated throughout this work, Les Trois Boutons. And what I love too about it is that it has almost a fantasy feel that is at the same time almost a true to life kind of video catalog of a day in the life, as it were. And so I find these seemingly paradoxical juxtapositions, both in terms of form and narrative space and approach, to be richly complex and charming and lyrical and quite a breath of fresh air. And in those ways, I think the introduction, if you will, or the program one, Agnes Forever, having this included as part of the first disc, I think is also a very bold choice in terms of curated order, because as I was trying to indicate, it is a nice segue from the presentations and themes of VARDA by Agnes as being itself an embodiment of those presentations and themes. And it's a living embodiment of that. And so I find, therefore, Les Trois Boutons included on this disc to be quite an interesting inclusion indeed. So once again, Les Trois Boutons from 2015. But then we have, to round out this first disc, we have supplements, which are in fact supplements which can be found on the sub-menu attached to the first film, VARDA by Agnes. And so if we go there, you can find the first supplement, which is called Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy, which is called The Art of Family Life. This is in total a 17-minute supplement where we have two separate interviews with the children of Agnes Varda, Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy. They are separately interviewed, but these interviews are edited together to form one whole supplement. And this is really fascinating because we get a real great sense of Varda, the artist, Varda and her family life, and who she was, and a general sense of her developments as an artist, and also the span of her career and the concerns and themes of her career going forward from people who knew her most intimately, Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy, from their own perspectives. So this is a loving tribute start, and it's, as I say, so refreshing to hear their perspectives and to get a sense, again, of the furthering of or the solidifying of the concept being that Agnes Varda and her cinema were one and the same. And I think the comments from Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy really are a testament to that perspective on the cinema of Agnes Varda. This is truly splendid. So the interview with Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy. But that's not all, because then we have the next set of supplements, or the next supplement being footage from a talk given at the Telluride Film Festival in 2019. So this is a kind of panel of guests that were invited to the stage prior to screening. And so the guests were Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy, but also we had Tom Luddy and also Martin Scorsese. And so we get a wonderful collection of people, and Annette Instorff. And then so what this gives us is we have this talk, which is about 39 minutes. And we have each of the participants giving a talk or some comments about Agnes Varda. And so this includes Rosalie Varda and Mathieu, Demy, which were really great. And then we have Martin Scorsese. And Martin Scorsese is talking about his friendship with Agnes Varda and how they would, whenever she would be in New York or they would be in the same place, maybe sometimes she would visit his film sets or something like that. But whenever they were in the same place and they would have the opportunity to meet, it would always be it would be talking, and it would be Agnes Varda and Martin Scorsese talking about cinema. And so to hear Martin Scorsese's recollections about how Agnes Varda would ask him questions and what she might have thought about his films and that sort of thing. This is really delightful stuff. This is the stuff that really makes me so happy that Criterion supplements are as they are. So to get little nuggets like this. But those nuggets don't end there, because we also have Tom Luddy, who gives such a great little set of anecdotes about Varda and meeting Agnes Varda and then eventually working with Agnes Varda, and gives a great story in relation to the film, in particular Uncle Yanko. And so that is also so splendid. And the great thing too about this is it again further cements and solidifies the view of the idea that Varda, Agnes Varda, the artist, is concerned not just with the notion of truth and the sincerity of the camera when, for example, capturing real people in real places and that sort of thing. So she's not just concerned with truth, but she's also concerned with lying or lies. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean this in a wholly complimentary way, because it is the notion of lies or creativity or inventiveness or narrative tricks that are also employed that make her cinema, I think, quite vivid. And thus it is through the creativity, if you will, that is employed, that is obviously the sort of antithesis, if you will, of a depiction of reality. And I think that's what when the word lie is being referred to in this Telluride Film Festival talk, I think that's what is being referred to. It is this notion, therefore, that Agnes Varda is seeking some kind of ultimate truth through the tools available to her as a cinematic artist, whether they be creative ones or directly realistic ones or anything in between. And I think that's the whole point. And that is such a great, profound thing that is taken from this particular talk. So it's a wonderful thing to have this included. So this is the Telluride Film Festival talk from 2019. And then we have a visual essay or video essay. This is a very interesting one. It's called Agnes Varda's Credit Sequences, and it's about 8 minutes, and it's essentially focusing in on the nature of the credit sequences of a number of Agnes Varda's films. And the thesis of this, one of the theses of this, is the use of text and the organic nature of text and the integral part that words and wordplay form when we think about the world of Agnes Varda. And I think this is incredibly important because language and cinema and Agnes Varda are key. This is one of the key components. This is a very illuminating one, and so it's really interesting to have this included. Really illuminating. So a video essay on Agnes Varda's credit sequences. And then we have a shorter piece, about a minute, a little shy of 2 minutes. This is called Corps Sensible, or Sensing Bodies. But it is a visual essay in visual terms, showing us examples of the way in which Agnes Varda's films captured or depicted the human body. And this is also very important in Agnes Varda's cinemas, because the human body and the human form, I think, are at the heart of many of her concerns. the way that the environment and the human body are interacting with each other, the toughness or the roughness of certain situations and how that takes a toll on the human body, the importance of the face, and the idea of time and grace and age and the experience, the lived-in experience of life itself. And this is all taking form, physical form, in the way that the human body is expressed in cinema. And so therefore this is very important in, I believe, the approach or the visual aesthetic and the emotional and intellectual concerns of Agnes Varda's cinema. So this essay, a very brief but still quite enlightening one, called Sensing Bodies. Then we have another very brief supplement, which is called A Chat with Nini. This is from 2019, a brief, very brief capturing of a conversation between Agnes Varda and her cat. This is charming and also very profound. This is in many ways such a perfect distillation of Agnes Varda, the person, the artist, and the cinema of Agnes Varda. So it's a perfect distillation of all these three things. And so please take a look at that if you can. Plus we have two trailers. First, we have a trailer for VARDA by Agnes, again, the 2019 film. And then we have a trailer for the retrospective as a whole, the Janus retrospective trailer. And that is another interesting thing to take a look at. But this rounds out the supplements that are found on the Program 1 disc, which is called Agnes Forever, included in which are the two films, which are VARDA by Agnes and Les Trois Boutons. So, my friends, this is, to conclude, this is a really splendid place to start. Again, if you choose to go chronologically, you can do so, and so you wouldn't start here, you would in fact end here. So you should take care to be sure you know where to start. But if you do decide to go chronologically, I think that's great. However, if you do decide to go with the curated order, and this is a really great place to start for the reasons that I tried to indicate in this particular video. So whatever the case may be, my friends, I do hope that you enjoy your explorations through this set from Criterion, which is called The Complete Films of Agnes Varda. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now, and so I will continue on with more discussions of this particular set, and so we will continue on with Program 2, which will be right after this. So please stay tuned to this channel for more videos upcoming. So until we meet again, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much again, my dear friends, as always, for your very precious time. I really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay well, and cheers.